Welcome to Common Sense Connecticut, where we look at the news and events that will shape the state of Connecticut. Your host is Gary Byron.
And welcome to Common Sense Connecticut. I'm Gary Byron. Our guest tonight is director, producer, and also Connecticut resident, Doug Rogers. Doug, welcome to Common Sense Connecticut.
Thank you, Gary. Pleasure to be here.
Oh, the pleasure, believe me, is all mine. When you watch the themes to those shows that you directed, the first feeling that comes to you?
Oh, it's exciting. It was an exciting time. When I was at MTM for 4 years doing those shows. And every time I hear those themes, it starts up all over again. They were great shows. Very well written, well directed, beautiful actors.
And with Roda and with Charles in Charge that we just showed, there were other shows that you were involved with, Hello Larry, and the crossover show with Different Strokes that you did, and there's a few others. But the Mary Tyler Moore Show predates all of those shows. How did you get that gig? That's a pretty good gig to get.
That's a good question. Actually, Valerie Harper started out as a dancer in New York, and when I was 17 years old, I got my first job as a dancer in a Broadway show. So that's how I broke into the business at age 17. And as time went on, I started to, dancers will go into choreography or direction. I got into both choreography and direction. And I was doing a show that I needed somebody like Valerie Harper, and I said, well, why don't I get Valerie Harper? She was a dancer at that point. And I gave her the first time that she ever spoke lines on stage. I gave her that job. So as a payback, she said to me one time, could you drive me out to JFK because I'm going out, they're going to put me on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. I said, well, that's a mistake. You'll take over the show. Well, she didn't take over, but she became, as you well know, a very prominent character on the show. And apropos of that, to answer your question directly, at one point she said, Doug, you could do this. You should come out here and try it out sometime. I said, okay. So I went out and I just took time off from what I was doing in New York and went out there and met everybody. And they said, well, come on back and observe. And I met Jay Sandrich, who was the director of Mary Tyler Moore
predominant director.
Predominant director,
Mary Tyler
right.
Moore Show,
yeah, I think he did all the Mary Tyler Moore shows except two, which I did one. But that's how it got started. It was primarily through Valerie Harper. And while we're speaking of her, I know people have been reading lately about she got news from her doctor that she had 3 months to live. Well, let me tell you something. I talked to her a month ago, and she sounded great. I didn't talk to her today, but I got a message on my machine from her today because I called her yesterday and told her I was going to be doing the show with you. And I said, this is what I'm going to say about you, because I think if people take anything from what I have to say, it'll be because of me and because of Valerie Harper. Just keep doing it. Don't live your life now. Don't wait for it to happen. Just keep it going. Do everything. And because I got to New York as a 17-year-old and a dancer, all these other things happened. And Valerie got back to me today. I just got a message from her saying, I'm doing fine. And now this is a month ago that she got the news she had 3 months to live. Well, that would mean she's only got 2 more months. Well, she sounded great. She sounded like she sounded 20 years ago. So anyway, that's the message from her, is just keep doing it.
Well, and please, obviously, send her our best as well. I mean, that's wonderful to know that.
I will talk to her.
I know she's making the talk show circuit. I see every time I turn around and turn the TV on, she's on a talk show.
That's right.
And looks fantastic. So God bless her. That's fantastic. And it seems like her spirits are up with all things considered.
She's always been the most positive person I ever knew. in the world, and just kept doing it. So she went from dancing in a chorus. I think one of the shows she was in was called Little Abner, and it was based on the comic strip character, as a dancer. And Michael Kidd was the choreographer. But then she took that from, do you know that her Roda show, when she married Joe, that still, to this day, is the most highly watched half hour on television ever.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing.
And you directed that?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you did not?
I wasn't there yet. I didn't say it for that reason. No, I said it because of her popularity. And right now, she said, I don't want to tell you too much when you're talking to Gary, because I'm going to do a special on NBC that's coming up very soon. They haven't done it yet. They're going to do it, where she's going to talk about this cancer situation that she has and the medicine that she's on, and hopefully that will help other people that are in that same predicament.
So it went undetected for a long time. She was supposed to be playing the Bushnell this past January, and not one show was performed.
No.
And at the time, I don't even believe that she was diagnosed with the brain cancer.
Well, that's when I called her, because I was looking forward to seeing her at the Bushnells, so I could say hello and reestablish the relationship. This was last January. I called her. She got back to me that very same day and said, no, it started in rehearsal. Something strange was happening, and I went to the doctor and they did the tests, and that was the beginning of it. But she didn't get this 3-month report until this past January. Oh my goodness. It's kind of like very recent.
What was your immediate response to
I felt terrible.
diagnosis?
I called. That's why I got in touch with her right away. And she said, Jewish people sit shiva for us. It's a way of paying homage to somebody who has passed away. She said, don't sit shiva for me yet. I'm still going to keep going. And I think that's the main message. I live my life that way. I have been dancing for more than 50 years. And I still go to Zumba class at the Y.
Well, you're in remarkable shape, Doug.
Well, thank you. At the Y right here in Middletown, Connecticut. I play tennis at the Old Saybrook Racket Club.
Wow. Were there a lot of parallels between Valerie Harper and Rhoda Morgenstern?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Very, very much so. And she modeled her accent, because she doesn't necessarily have that accent, after a very close friend, another actress who is still working in California, named Millie Slavin. And I know Valerie would want me to mention her name, because Millie had a great accent that she did. She didn't speak that way all the time. But anyway, that was the basis for it.
And you got your opportunity to direct the Roda show because of the episode that you directed for the Mary Tyler Moore Show, was nominated for an Emmy.
Right. Well, Betty White actually won an Emmy for that show. It was called Sue Ann Falls in Love.
Right.
So the basic story was about her. And that was her first Emmy. And she's 91 now. It's still going.
And probably more popular today than ever, right?
Right. And I think they're all getting together to do
Hot in Cleveland.
Hot in Cleveland, yeah. All of them. And I worked with all those women. That's Cloris Leachman. Yeah. I did Phyllis. For 2 years spent doing that. And when Cloris was here in Connecticut doing Showboat, she was playing the lead in it. And my wife and I went back to see her backstage, and we sat there and talked for about 2 hours. And she said, we didn't know how good we had it, did we?
Oh.
The writing was so great. The acting was great. I mean, when you look at those scenes from the Roda show, those were pros at the top of their game.
Well, let's take a look at a clip of the Roda show. One that you did direct.
Yeah, definitely.
It's him. It's Nick.
Hey, little fox. Hey, sis. Hey, I don't know you.
Sally, this is the one and fortunately the only Nick Lobo. Nick, this is Sally Gallagher, my friend.
Hey, long, tall Sally.
Hey.
And now, little fox, back to you.
Does he always wear that?
Some people have chest hair.
I recognize that blonde as Ann Mara.
Ann Mara, yeah, definitely.
Jerry Stiller's wife. right?
Stiller
and Mara.
Yeah,
Right.
yes.
And when you watch that now, can you recall what exactly was going on behind the scenes when you watched that?
Well, I'll tell you this much: that little piece of business where Richard Masur is the actor playing Brenda's boyfriend, where they hug and the accordion, moans. That got me more work than any other piece of business I ever did. Just one thing like that.
So it's true that one scene can actually make or break somebody.
Well, this is part of my director's sample reel, which when you were working as a director in California, you put together a sample reel, and your agent sends that around to different shows, and people look at it, and that's how you get work.
Let's go back, though. Something that you said a little while ago is that you became a showman at age 17?
I was a dancer on Broadway, age 17, in a show called Oklahoma. Can you believe that?
Wow.
The original company. Now, don't do the math, because then you'll know how old I am. But
you were in Broadway, though.
On Broadway, yeah. No, that was at the St. James Theater. It was the original. I didn't go into it at the very beginning. I went into it the last year that it was open. So it had been running for 5 years at that point. So I was a replacement, but I was a dancer in it and understudied Will Parker, that character, and then played Will Parker in summer stock in many, many theaters around the country.
But I'd be remiss if I didn't also acknowledge that you're not just a dance man. Mm-hmm. You're a song and dance man.
Right.
We got a clip here. We're going to take you way back.
Uh-oh. Where are you going?
To Jackie Gleason's show.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. Check this out. What year is this now?
57, I think.
57?
Or 53?
54.
54.
54. All right, let's take a
Don't
look.
do
From
that.
1954,
Don't.
Doug Rogers.
Ladies and gentlemen, each week I praise our choreographer, June Taylor. Tonight, I don't think I will. It's not necessary. Will you see this number with the June Taylor Girls featuring Doug Rogers in Piano Antics. All right, kids.
I love a piano, I love a piano, I love to hear somebody play. I'm on a piano, a grand piano, it simply carries me away. I know a fine way to the Frida Steinway. I love to run my fingers on the keys, the ivories with the pedal. I love the metal when Paderewski comes away. I'm so delighted if I'm invited to hear the Lockheed Genius play. You keep your fiddle and your folky P-I-A-N-O. While I'll stop right beside an upright or a high tone, maybe grand.
Now, I can imagine that the exposure that this gives you, so relatively early on in your career, must have been incredibly valuable.
Absolutely. But the amazing thing is when I look at that, I don't see myself, I see my son, because he looks just like me at that age. So,
You might want to say what your son does. He's living in New York.
Lives in New York in the East Village, and he's a jazz guitarist, one of probably the top 4 jazz guitarists in the city of New York, working all the time. He just did a concert this week with Regina Carter, the jazz violinist, and her group. She was playing songs. She happens to be an African-American lady, and she was doing 3 songs that her grandfather wrote in Alabama. She's kind of trying to identify with the roots, and my son orchestrated those for her band, and they did a concert in Virginia.
That's awesome.
And then they're heading for San Francisco. Well, actually, tomorrow they are recording all those songs.
Runs in the family.
Yeah.
But there are other projects that you must have taken on at that, because like I was saying, that opens up doors for you. What kind of doors?
Well,
particularly as a performer, Doug.
as a performer, it obviously got me a lot of work as a song and dance band, playing those kind of parts. But you know, I got to a point where I would be doing a show, and the director or the choreographer would do something a certain way, and I would say to myself, I would never do it that way. This is how I would do it. And to my mind, I would do it. I was fine. I was a total professional. So I would do it. But then I realized, you know, I've got to take the next step. I've got to, you know, move up to whatever that next thing is, which happened to be choreography. So I made my living as a choreographer for years. You know, back in the 60s, a great way to earn a living in show business was to do something called industrial shows. And they were put together because companies like General Motors, Ford, Buick, well, that's General Motors, but all of the General Motors products, if they were introducing a new car, they would put on a Broadway musical to introduce the car. So there was in fact, I made a close friend of mine is a man named Jim St. Andrea, who I have recommended to do this show, bring him in, because he was a very successful New York producer doing those shows. And it was a great way for actors to make a living at that point.
But it was all because of a director directing you, knowing that you could do it differently and ultimately better than what he was doing, that allowed for such a transition into directing.
Right. And
otherwise, you would have still been a performer.
Exactly.
Any regrets that you didn't pursue that one avenue? There's a lot more notoriety with it, and
well, but it just, you know, the challenge was there. And it's also, you have to keep moving. You know, you can't just keep doing the same thing over and over. You have to keep doing new things. And that seemed to be a new venue, a new way I could go with my career that would satisfy me.
Was there not a way that you could do both? Because there are directors who also act and I would imagine dance as well.
I did shows that I directed and choreographed and performed in for a while, and that, you know, but that's limiting, you know, and it's very difficult. But I love doing it, and you know, the industrial shows that I mentioned, that gave me the experience because they obviously there were what they called sketches, which were short scenes that were comedy. That gave me the background, so that when it came time to do a Roda show or a Mary Tyler Moore show or a Charles in Charge or whatever, I had that experience of doing this in live shows, in live theater.
Was the Mary Tyler Moore show the first show that you directed? Or were you directing musicals?
No, that was the second one. The first show I did was a Roda. And then they asked me to do...
That's right, because they do run concurrent for a couple of years.
They asked me to do the Mary Tyler Moore show, and I said, fantastic. And it was a difficult show to do because it's an awards show. And that was technically difficult because of you know, you're shooting with 4 cameras on, those shows, by the way, were all done on film, whereas most shows now are done on videotape or digital. And Jay Sandrich, who was directing most of the Mary Tyler Moore shows, he became like a mentor of mine. He was showing me all of the secrets of doing film with 4 cameras, you know, because those cameras were huge. You know, I mean, they were 35 millimeters on a dolly. So you had a camera operator, you had a focus pusher, and you had somebody, a grips, who pushed the dolly. You had 3 guys on each camera. So you had 12 guys out there that you were controlling.
That episode that you just referred to regarding, excuse me, the Teddy Awards, in which...
yep, that's right.
Right?
Yep.
They were all up. I think everybody but Ted Baxter, who was very pompous, played by, of course, the late actor Ted Knight.
Right, exactly.
I believe people were up for a Teddy Award, and Betty White's character, Sue Ann Nivens, had a boyfriend who I believe had the hots for Mary Richards. Mary Tyler Moore's character.
Yeah.
And you said that Betty White won an Emmy for that. We have a clip of that show in which you directed that Betty White won an Emmy Award for. If we can bring that up as well.
Sue Ann, you're going to have to listen to me. I didn't want to have to tell you this, but boy, I can't stand by and see you get hurt. I have to tell you, I just have to.
Well, Mary, if my bra strap is showing, why don't you come right out and tell me?
Sue Ann, Doug made a pass at me.
Oh, listen, Mary. Lots of times, men are used to gesturing with their hands. They put their hands on someone's shoulders, and, well, people with provincial principles tend to misinterpret.
Sue Ann, he grabbed me with both arms.
Well, you offered him a drink. Perhaps he was just saying thank you.
He kissed me.
Thank you very much.
Oh, Sue Ann, come on, please.
Now, whom am I to believe? If I go to Doug, I know you'll deny it. And Doug is a man who has shared his innermost thoughts. A man who loves me, respects me, understands me. Now, do I believe him or someone who has never been really close to me, who has every reason to be jealous, who couldn't make a souffle if her life depended on it? Oh, damn it, Mary, I believe you. Oh, I feel so alone.
Oh, well, don't feel alone, Sue Ann. I'm here.
I need comforting, and you don't know what to do.
Tell me what to do. I'll do it.
Take my head and pat it. Oh, be careful. Don't mess my hair. My category's next. I think we're doing wonderfully for two people who don't like each other.
How do you not laugh when you're directing that show?
Well, you do. In fact, you laugh right with the audience. These were all done in front of
a live studio audience?
Yeah, 300 people sitting on the soundstage right behind where you're standing. Because that's the great thing it's about is you're right on the floor with the actors, with the camera operators and the people and the people, the audience is right behind you. And there are often times when after a take, I would talk to the writers, and like one joke didn't work, and people like James L. Brooks, who was one of the top writers of the Mary Tyler Moore shows, I got a better line. Let's go back and reshoot it.
Oh, really? So,
yeah,
they would actually change the script.
Change the script right then and there, and that's why in that you got to be on your toes because things happen fast. And then there was a scene on a Roda show that I did where the audience laughed so loud that the audio man came to me and said, "We have to redo it. The audience was laughing so loud, I can't hear the dialogue, so we can't. There's no way that you can use that scene." So I said, "Okay, well, let's reshoot the whole scene." I turned to the audience, who was directly behind me, and I said, "Okay, we're going to do that again, but don't laugh quite so loud."
Really?
Right. And we did it again, and then, of course, just normal circumstances. If an audience has seen something and they see it again, they don't laugh as loud.
And that was going to be my next question. I would think that the more takes that are done, the laughter wouldn't be as loud.
No, not as loud. So it worked, and we got it, and it was a very, very, very funny show.
Did you ever, though, while you're directing television sitcoms, did you ever miss the days of choreography and singing and dancing and the original reason in which you got into show business for?
Not really. You know why? Because those were so fulfilling. When you have great acting and wonderful writing. I mean, those James L. Brooks, Stan Daniels, David Davis,
Treva?
all
Treva?
those. Pardon me?
Treva was.
Well, James L. Brooks went on to do the next thing that he did was
Taxi?
No, to create the cartoon show. Where Julie Kavner played the lead lady. What is it? Simpsons.
The Simpsons.
Sorry.
Julie Kavner is one of the Simpsons
Marge.
characters, right?
So Marge
and that
Simpson,
was Rhoda's sister on the Roda show.
Right, and James L. Brooks did that. This is interesting for people that want to go into writing. He did that because it allowed him, in doing a cartoon show like that, he could put those people, those characters, anywhere he wanted. In a sitcom, or even in a if it's not a sitcom, any show that's on every week, you usually have your living room set, and you have where the people, where they live, and then you have where they work. You have those two sets. So you're limited in writing. If you're doing a cartoon show, you could say, I want them on the moon. Okay, they're on the moon. Or I want them flying by themselves over the world, whatever.
But then you also directed a TV show in the 80s, Charles in Charge.
Yes.
Okay, we saw a little bit of that at the beginning of the show. Was the atmosphere on that stage a lot different from the atmosphere on, say, Mary Tyler Moore or Roda?
Oh, very definitely. Yeah.
And the writing is certainly different.
Yeah, writing was different. It's not the caliber of Mary Tyler Moore, Roda, Phyllis with Cloris Leachman, or the Betty White show.
What made Charles in Charge different for you?
Well, it's nice to make a change. Different characters, different people to challenge to get that show to work, and besides, at that point, I think most of the shows that were like the Roda and the Mary Tyler Moore, they were going off the air.
Let's show a clip, if we can, of Charles in Charge, directed by Doug Rogers.
No, Professor Flack. All I'm saying is that you would have more American Lit majors if your course included comic books.
I can't accept that as an objective opinion, coming as it does from a living cartoon.
You hear about actors. Sometimes they get a bad rap because the press will catch them on a bad day. Mm-hmm. A lot of egos behind the scenes.
Oh, very definitely, yeah.
Was there a lot of competition to have the punchline of the joke?
Well, if they're really very secure in what they do, no. But if they're insecure, then that just comes out like crazy, So you're always dealing with that. Directing a group of actors like that is like being part analyst, part psychiatrist, because people have problems in their lives, and if they're really good, they don't bring it to work. But sometimes it happens.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially with marquee names, very well-known actors.
Absolutely.
And you did a movie, Dennis the Menace. It was a made-for-TV movie that was also in the 80s?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what brings you, though, or what brought you to Connecticut? Because you have the limelight of Hollywood, and you're so successful.
Well, I had early on in my career in the 50s, some of your listeners might remember a place called Bill Hahn's, which was down in Westbrook, right on the ocean. It's now called Water's Edge because Bill Hahn died, and he did shows every weekend, and he brought people up from New York, and I was one of those people. So I would come up to Westbrook and do a show like once a month. I'd be there for a Saturday doing a show. One Saturday we did My Fair Lady. Another Saturday we did Oklahoma. We just did different shows. It was a great experience. But it got me into this area. I saw Essex, I saw Old Saybrook, I saw Long Island Sound and the boating, and I said, oh boy, someday I want to live here. And when it came time to, you can only work as hard as it is to do half-hour sitcoms. You can only do that for a certain number of years. Then you have to do.
Did you know Matt Showalter?
I met him. When I moved here, yes.
Okay.
And because of the beauty of this area, and the first house we rented was literally 10 feet off the river. I tied my boat to a tree in the front yard.
That is awesome. In present day, you're an adjunct professor, you're a teacher at Middlesex Community College with your wife, Barbara.
Yep.
And you work on documentaries concerning the inland wetlands for the Department of Environmental Protection.
That is right.
And so you're actually, you can't call yourself retired.
No.
It pulls you right back in. It's like an addiction. We actually have a clip Now instead of working with Hollywood actors, you're working with local talent.
Right.
If you can imagine.
And
Must be a huge
pleasure.
difference. Let's take a look at a clip from a documentary directed by Doug Rogers for the Inland Wetlands Commission for the Department of Environmental Protection.
Okay, moving on. We'll get a report from our wetlands enforcement agent, Harv Jones. Harv, have there been any actions taken out there since the last commission meeting?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, there is. At the last meeting, Commissioner Warren had asked me to look into the Everview site. I guess there was some concern with some stormwater runoff. I actually went down to the site and I noticed that there was a silt fence that was down. And the construction manager told me that they were going to be, they were going to replace it and put it back up. And also noticed that there were some hay bales down as well. That's all part, incidentally, of the soil and erosion control plan, okay? And that is required in the permit. The property owner was there, so he knows exactly what I'm talking about.
It's common for an agent to give a report during the meeting. Depending upon the matter in discussion, the commissioners may recommend enforcement action or suggest site inspections.
Now, there's an award-winning production.
Absolutely.
Really quickly, because I'm running out of time, how do you differentiate then working with seasoned actors in Hollywood or on the stage in Broadway in New York and working documentary films with really amateur talent?
Well,
do you handle the scenario differently?
Acting is acting. If people have seen, when you were a student of mine, and that's how I knew you originally, and it came time to do this particular documentary that you call them for. By the way, it's now called Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, DEEP. DEEP is what it's called, yeah. And you were right to play exactly that role. and so I wouldn't treat you any different than I would if I was working with Mary Tyler Moore or Valerie Harper or McLean Stevenson.
Sure.
You know, and it proved itself. That particular documentary that you did, we entered that. There's a contest called the Telly Awards for non-broadcast material. These weren't for broadcast. We entered, that came in second in this country.
For the whole country?
For the whole country, yeah. And going in competition with four-year colleges.
And it's an ongoing thing, because you're doing now the third version of that corporate video, so to speak, for the state. Amazing.
Yep.
If there's anything to really be learned by you in the evolution of your career from 17 years old right to the present day, is the variety of work, that body of work that you have under your belt. And you've gone from a song and dance man to a choreographer in directing and doing small town stuff. And it just seems like when there's a door that's open for you, you seize that opportunity.
Been lucky. Part of it is luck, but the other thing is to keep open and ride the horse in the direction that he's going. You try to, maybe, you're doing a certain thing and it's not going anywhere. Well, then you got to look at it. Well, maybe I should not try to go that way and go in this direction. Follow what's really working.
And you never
for
seem to let your ego get in the way. You seem open to just about every opportunity.
What do you mean by that?
Hey, by the way, Doug, next time you come back on, we want to have you on for another segment, maybe a full hour. You bring your wife, Barbara, who also works in the field.
Absolutely.
And we'd have a lot of fun, because there's a lot of things that we didn't even get to just because we ran out of time.
Right.
But I do want to thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
Director, producer, choreographer. You did cinematography as well?
Nope. Never got there.
I learned so much from this gentleman teaching over at Middlesex Community College when I was a student there many, many years ago. In Connecticut resident, by the way, and seems pretty darn proud of it. His name is Doug Rogers. We thank Doug. And after the break, we've got people from Chatfield Independent Living. We're going to learn the difference between independent living and assisted living. So stay with us here on Common Sense Connecticut.
What are you looking at, punk?
Nice shoes. What are you, homeless? Ugly slut.
What are you doing here, loser?
No one likes to get bullied. No one likes a bully. Chances are, you've experienced bullying. Whether you were bullied, you bullied someone else, or you saw someone being bullied. Now is the time to say something.
Don't be a bully.
Don't be a bully. Don't be a bully.
Don't be a bully.
Let your voice be heard.
Welcome back to Common Sense Connecticut. Our next guests come from Chatfield Independent Living. located over in West Hartford. We have Ken Papillo, he's a sales and marketing director. Also, Charles Davis, dining service directors. Wow. And I see you brought a lot of your samples. And also Bill McDonald, executive director. Thank you for coming on to Common Sense Connecticut.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. We're going to talk a lot about food because it's hard to sit here. Yes, my friends, these are not props. I can attest to that because the scent is just, my stomach is growling, so if you hear anything, I'm letting you know ahead of time. That's exactly what it is. But independent living, I'm going to start there, and then we'll take it from there. Yep. Independent living and assisted living. There is a lot of confusion and quite frankly, I think a lot of the homes, if you will, they kind of use this word interchangeably, when there actually is a major difference between independent living and assisted living. Can anyone take this and try to differentiate?
Absolutely, yeah. When people talk about independent living, you can certainly live at home independently. But when it comes to a community like ours, we're not a facility. Sometimes you hear those words thrown around, facility, room, bed. We're more of a hotel, if you will, kind of with care and amenities. And I'll explain that to you. When we talk about independent living, typically the people that move into Chatfield are folks that still can do a lot of things for themselves. Many of their activities of daily living they can take care of themselves. That is cooking. They can still take care of themselves with dressing, bathing, toileting, all those things that you would typically find people need help with in an assisted living or a skilled nursing. So that's where you kind of take your steps. So coming back to Chatfield as an independent living, what separates us from most independent livings is really one basic thing. There's a couple of ancillary items, but independent living does not have that clinical piece in the house, meaning a nurse. Typically you will find that in an assisted living. Okay. You'll find nursing, certified nursing assistants that help residents throughout the evening if they need anything. We don't have that at Chatfield, so we're not a licensed community. So that's the main difference between an assisted living and an independent living.
So I would say that your I don't know, clients or residents, or I don't know what word is better.
Residents.
Residents. Okay. They're very active people then.
Absolutely.
Are there activities for them to do? Do you engage them, or are they just literally on their own to go and do what they want to do?
No, we want people to move in and feel as independent as possible. So we don't push things on folks, but we make offerings. When I look at our community as a whole, we work for the residents. That's like a family to us. We're kind of blessed in a way.
Yeah, we are.
We go home to a family and we go to work to a family. Not too many people can say that.
Right.
So when we come to work, it truly is one big family. So we kind of help each other. It's like you would do with your siblings and your spouses.
All right, so these residents then, they don't have family.
Oh, many of them do.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So when I say family, I use that kind of.
Well, we go home to family,
term.
but they're independently living by themselves. They have family who can come and visit.
That's correct.
And there's no visiting hours.
No, they can come anytime.
Anytime.
We have a 24-hour concierge that's there. That's that's something that makes us different.
Yes, it does.
People can come and go. Many of our residents still drive, keep their cars there. You don't find that typically in an assisted living or a skilled nursing. People are beyond that point of where they can kind of take care of themselves. They're needing a lot more care. Now, with that said, Brookdale Senior Solutions, Brookdale Senior Living owns
the parent
Chatfield.
company of Chatfield, right?
Correct. We also have Brookdale Place, which is in West Hartford, and we have the Gables, which is in Farmington. Now, the Gables is a combination independent living slash assisted living. So they have that nursing piece in-house for anybody who ever needs it. And Brookdale Place is definitely assisted living, a little bit heavier care. Okay. And they also have what we call Clare Bridge, which is dementia and Alzheimer's. Oh. It's kind of a secured area. Now, which is interestingly enough, even though we're independent living, Chatfield has been granted permission to build an assisted living on our campus, if you will. So for those of the...
so you're going to have both?
Absolutely. Down the road, within probably a year or so.
Yeah, but all on the same grounds.
All on the same grounds. So you can kind of age in place. You can go from independent living. Chatfield will remain totally independent with all the amenities and things that we'll talk a little bit about. And then you can kind of move over to the assisted living side if you ever need that.
Physically relocate? Or
physically.
Can the dwelling in which they're living in, do they stay there, or do they literally move into a place, another spot on the campus.
Well, that's what's happening right now. We have people that live independently, but we have some folks that have been there many years. One gentleman, 23 years, when it first opened.
Oh, really?
He's still there. Some of the folks, a couple years down the road, come in, they move in independently, but now they need a little bit of care.
Are they buying? It's like all right, let's start with this. Is it like a condo? Is it like a townhouse?
It's
or
definitely
like an apartment?
It's an apartment. Everything's on one level. There's 3 levels to our building. So you would rent an apartment, anything from a 570 square foot studio to a 1,300 square foot 2-bedroom, 2-bath.
Oh, wow.
So, and there's everything.
This really
in
is
between.
independent living then. You
14
have your own
different
kitchen,
floor
right?
plans.
Or-
Yeah, full kitchen.
Oh, yeah, full kitchen.
That's what makes us unique. We're independent living, although we do provide the meals, breakfast and dinner. Lunch is in a cafe on site. And Charles's team, they kind of run that cafe. And that's a whole separate menu. I brought a couple of menus. You can get a hot dog, hamburger. You can get a panini, a wrap, a salad, soups is available for a couple dollar items for lunch. That's one thing that's not included in the rent. But breakfast buffet and
Happy hour is, though.
sit-down dinner.
Oh, there's an amazing pub there. You have to see this.
Yeah. Wow.
There's a pub.
I love it.
Well, we're talking about food, right?
It's only closed one night.
Sunday, of course. Of course. But there's a pub there. There's bartenders there, and
There's a popcorn machine in the corner.
Well, they're certainly of age, and they're not driving home because they're living right there on the grounds.
Yeah, it's perfect.
And I would imagine that the bartenders end up getting to know some of the residents and say, "Yes, Mrs. Jones, I have your martini waiting for you," right? That is the coolest thing. I've never heard of this.
Well, we serve movies almost every night. They have amazing movies.
We serve wine and beer, basically. We offer on the house wine and beer, and the residents are free to bring in their own bottles, which we store there, and we keep it there for them. So whatever they're drinking, their brew of choice or liquor of choice,
I asked you a question a moment ago as far as do they own, is it like renting, is it like renting an apartment or is it like buying a condo? You said it's more like apartment living.
Yep.
But is it theirs permanently?
No, they rent month to month.
It's month to month. It's not like a 5-year lease or
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. If somebody's there for 6 months and God forbid they, for some reason, didn't like it or couldn't stay any longer, they just have to give us a 30-day notice. That's it.
Right.
And then they can move on. We'll help them transition somewhere else.
But that tenant or resident that you have that's been there for over 20 years, I mean, he's just month by month. He could take off any time.
Correct. But, that's his home. People generally stay anywhere from 3 to 10 years at Chatfield.
So
People don't
it's
move
really
in
an alternative to go, I got to go out and look for a place to live. I got to go out and look for a new condo. I got to look for an apartment. Or there's this alternative.
Correct.
To coming to Chatfield.
Well, one of the misconceptions that people have is when you mention, let's take a daughter who said, "Mom, you're not safe at home anymore. Dad passed away a couple of years ago. I see that you can't keep the house up. Maybe Chatfield's a great," and automatically I think Mom is thinking a dreary nursing home where, people are, the food is terrible. Just the things you would normally think of.
Kind of like
if you've never looked.
Nest or something like that. That's kind
Correct.
of the image that comes out.
Well, that's an insane asylum, right?
Well, right. That's not.
But Chatfield is totally different. And for those of you who have never been there, love to have people come by and check us out. We're always there. It's like I think I'm there more than I'm home.
I'll give you an example of some of the energy that's there. Recently we had a competition, which is Wii Bowling's big with the seniors. And so we kind of did a throwdown with Newington Senior Center and also with Elmwood. Not throwdown, but it was a friendly competition. And so their teams came over to Chatfield and competed against Chatfield. And
trophies
and
they beat
with
us.
a trophy.
They beat us. Personalized living.
Right.
That's what this is.
Right. And that's our form of being able to offer help to people that need that on a daily basis. Again, we're not a licensed assisted living, but our personalized living is something that's unique to Brookdale.
It's kind of like, though, you talk about they have families that can come and visit them anytime they like.
Anytime.
But they also must have like a family within the campus of your facility.
Absolutely.
Well, that's what we promote. The fact is a community. That's what it's a community. And,
so if you were lonely before, you're lonely no more.
Well, you get the option. You get two choices. If you're independent and you really don't want to get involved in our activities, or you want to stick to yourself and be by yourself, you have your apartment. The way the building is laid out, which I think is perfect, is the fact is everything is centered in the hub in the center of the building.
Okay.
And we have our restaurant or dining, and the cafe and the polo lounge, and all the activities, game room. and everything is in the center.
And the bar.
And the
food is
the
great.
bar.
The food
All right,
is
I'm going to
great.
talk about the food in a second, but tell me about your Optimum Life program, and then we'll talk about the food and the menu items and feel like I'm on a cruise ship. How they're talking about all these amenities and
Absolutely. Well, Optimum Life is something that's unique to Brookdale. It's a plan that they put together years ago, and what we try to help people do is fulfill many aspects of their life, which is good for every one of us. We should all be doing this at home on ourselves anyway. Optimum Life covers spiritual, physical, emotional, purposeful. So when we get together with somebody who moves in as a resident, we all meet as managers and kind of help them through that. You know, with this spiritual, we try to celebrate all different faiths at
I guess you'd
Chatfield.
have to, though, right?
We take people to synagogue, to church, across the street to the Methodist church. We have clergy that come in.
What's the average age of a resident?
Yeah, Chatfield is 82 is average.
They can start coming in, though, at 62. 20 years
62
before that.
is a minimum age.
But are there many residents that come in any people that come in at 62? Or?
Well, I'll tell you, in the last year, I've had at least a dozen people under the age of 62 that have inquired that want to move in. And we've had to say, no, we can't.
I got to say, I'm listening to this, and it kind of reminds me of like country club living. You know, like living at a resort, you have all these different activities going on that you may or may not want to partake in.
Correct.
You've got dinners that you can either eat in your room and cook them yourself, or I shouldn't say room, in your apartment, so to speak, or you can come and have the cuisine that Charles, you and your crew.
and all for a reasonable price. It's very, if you see the layout and what you're getting, it's definitely a nice deal.
You were telling me earlier that you were like a sous chef for
Bobby Flay. Yeah, many years ago. I'm getting
Incredible.
a little bit long in the tooth, but
What have you
I was a
learned
younger
from
man.
that experience and were able to transition into your position now?
Well, I've been around, I guess, because I was in New York for 25 years, and I did own my own restaurant in Martha's Vineyard for about 5 years. So,
So the
I do
food
know
that
a
they're
little bit
getting is
about-
nothing generic.
No, it's not generic. But what we do is we're under the corporate umbrella where Brookdale has their signature items that we serve. That's served in every Brookdale facility in the country, and we have. Fortunately, we can be a little bit more creative and add our own twist to the main menu. But when we were talking about Optimum Life and that kind of thing, when we were talking about physical, the thing is we do offer menu items that are geared towards people, to residents who need a little assistance as far as.
I really want to talk about the food, though, because you obviously brought this in for a reason.
Right.
And it's torturing me looking at it
Right.
and inhaling the scent.
Right.
Let's start from your right and the viewer's left.
Well, that's a roast chicken with an orange glaze, a roasted chicken. That's a chicken breast, obviously, and of course you have your vegetables that are here. But in the middle we have mac and cheese, of course, and here we have grilled salmon with asparagus and of course a baked sweet potato, and then we have a pastry chef that also on the premises. I have a nice kitchen staff. I have a chef on hand who basically creates a lot of these dishes, and and I just basically assist and give them guidance as far as what we're about and what we're trying to accomplish there. But with a pastry chef, we have right here our signature item, which is a magic bar, which is done by Bridget.
That's correct. Creation
So
of
give her kudos. But that's probably loaded with probably about a billion.
Do you
different
find, though,
sweet-
that a lot of your residents have restricted diets? They get to a certain age sometimes. Not everybody, of course,
Well-
but you're finding more and more people have allergies.
Well,
or,
the older you get, the more you end up in that type of situation, diabetes and certain conditions. And we try, we have, if you look at our menu, we have two sides. We have a seasonal menu that rotates every six weeks, right? So that rotates, and so that's always on the left side. And then we have on the right side a menu that changes every night. So, and within that, we have low salt or something health conscious, things on there that are geared towards, a more, I don't know, health conscious type of cuisine. So we try to cover all the bases. You know, our corporation, we have chefs that are out there. I just came back from a food show that they put on for Brookdale, and where they bring in their chefs who create a lot of our recipes. And we go online and we pull all of our recipes up.
Oh,
and
really?
Basically guide us through what they're about and what they would like us to serve. So we're pretty much tapped into.
This is professionally prepared.
Professionally prepared. We go from garnishes to the way it's garnished, to plating, to the style of food that we put on and what we offer.
Take me. You said 2 meals a day, or do you do all 3? Because you said lunch. They come to.
Right. We have a cafe.
A cafe.
Right.
Included in your monthly rent are the 2 meals, and then
But what that promotes by not having, we offer the breakfast and we offer dinner, and the cafe is there. But we have a lot of activities where our residents, because we have service where an activity is they visit a restaurant once a week as a group. So they have, and of course they have their own vehicles, so they get to go out. So during the daytime, we're promoting, get involved in the community, move out, get about. We don't want to lock them into, part of the plan is to be there 24/7, and you're kind of locked in because you're on a meal plan, as if you were in.
But Charles, that's the misconception. You talk to the average person who hasn't experienced bringing a parent or a grandparent to either assisted living or independent living, and if you were to ask somebody that did not have this knowledge, describe what you think it's like, that they would think that they're not allowed beyond the 4 walls,
right.
Correct.
And they're almost kept almost like an elderly
like
prisoner.
a prisoner.
Yeah.
They're thinking structure, right? You got to be down for breakfast, or you're going to miss it. You got to be for lunch.
Right, but it sounds like they can come and go as they want. They can eat breakfast at 11 o'clock in the morning if they like.
Breakfast is served from 7:30 to 10. They can come down. They can have it there.
But they can even cook it in their room.
Correct.
Of course.
And that's what separates us. We have full kitchens, so you have the best of both worlds.
Plus the community of West Hartford itself. Ton of restaurants.
Oh, correct. That goes without saying.
We have the mall across the street.
I mean, I don't want
We have a lot
to,
going on.
and I can't actually get into prices, but are there different level packages, like that you can have
talk to Ken about that.
packages that includes meals or ones that doesn't? And I can't have you go into prices.
Right. No, that's fine. No, every one of the prices, regardless, it all depends on the size of the apartment you want. But they all include the same amenities. The breakfast,
So no one's going to say there, well, you're not in this package, so you get away from the pub.
Correct.
Get away from the cafe.
No. Everyone's walking everywhere. That whole house is,
The pub, I think, is cash, right? I mean, that can't.
No, we carry no
that's
cash.
included.
We don't exchange cash there at all.
So if somebody wants to come in for a glass of wine or two,
It's on the house.
a couple of glasses of wine, you get a beer.
There's a 2-drink minimum.
well, okay. Yeah. It's not a bar.
That's not
like
a
you
bar.
said, West Hartford.
Well, unless you have you can bring your own bottle, and of course, there's still a 2-drink minimum, but it's your liquor.
Describe for me a typical day of any one of you, of one of your residents. There's always exceptions to this, but a typical day that the average resident would go for. They get up in the morning to the time that they go to bed at night. What is a typical day like?
Starts with breakfast, right?
Yeah, many of our residents, they wake up typically 7:30, 8 o'clock. People are down for breakfast, and it's a buffet, so you can help yourself. Many of them eat it there. They'll take it outside. They'll take it up to their apartment. And then there's a whole laundry list of activities going on. Typically, we do some kind of exercise in the morning, whether it's yoga or a sit down with the weights or something even a little more strenuous. Depends on what you can or cannot do.
Okay.
And we do
Can I
have
bring an
physical-
important point in? They might take their pet for a walk because it's pet friendly. You can have a
You can have
dog
a
or
pet.
cat.
You have a dog
Yeah,
if you
dog
want.
or cat.
Oh my goodness.
Up to 25 pounds. So sorry.
Yeah, we
No
can
Great Danes.
No Great Danes.
No Great
yeah.
Danes.
Don't bring my
right.
German Shepherd in there, that's for sure.
It's too bad because German Shepherds are actually very nice dogs.
They sure are.
But go ahead.
Yeah, so you could take your dog for a walk or go for a walk yourself, walk off your breakfast, and typically around 10 o'clock in the morning there's some kind of exercise, and then on Mondays and Thursdays we take folks to and from doctor's appointments, so that's kind of scheduled. The other days we're doing out trips, shopping, talking about there's a ladies club, there's a men's club, they play poker, there's a resident council. They meet with Charles and his team. Was it once a month? They
Right,
do
I
kind
do
of a menu chat.
right. I do a
They tell us
cookie
what
demo.
they want.
Do they really?
Once a month.
So it's really hands-on then.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So they might say, "Oh, Charles, we didn't like the way that chicken was cooked, and maybe you should try it this way." We'll use their recipe. Get them involved. That's
Sometimes people get older, they get a little finicky, and it's all subjective because somebody could nitpick on something, and somebody else loved it and raved about it.
Which usually the way it goes.
Yeah, I was going to say that's one of the downfalls. So then, how do you work with that then?
Well, we have. If someone was to step up and attend one of our meetings, and we have it every Wednesday, and we try to talk and talk over any problems that may arise. But mostly, it's a time for suggestions, and they might want something traditional that they were raised on, and they might want to have it at Chatfield. And the thing is, we are obligated to bring it to them within a timely manner, which is probably within 2 weeks. We will get it to the table.
Really?
Yes, we will.
You spoke a little while ago when you were differentiating between independent living and assisted living, and that there's no medical staff on the premises with independent living. However, a medical emergency can happen to anyone at any age at any given time.
That's right.
What if it presented itself where medical attention was needed for one of your residents?
There's two ways.
Immediate medical assistance.
Right. 2 ways we handle that. In each apartment, there are pull cords. There are emergency cords. They go right to the concierge. The concierge will actually talk to them through the speaker, find out if they can respond. If they can't, they rush right up there. If we need to call 911, that's what we do.
Plus,
if it's something minor we can help them with, we'll certainly do that.
Now, with independent living, you were saying a little while ago as well that they can kind of come and go as they want.
That's right.
West Hartford Center has a lot of great restaurants and nightlife and bars that they, the mall is not too far from where you're located.
You can walk there.
Have you ever had a circumstance where one of your residents went out one afternoon or for dinner by themselves
and never came back?
Yes.
It's never happened.
No, not that I've
been
seen.
there.
We've had out trips.
What is the protocol that's in place where if someone, would you even know if a resident wasn't around, wasn't present for a day or two without giving any notice that, if it's one thing, hey, I'm going to be spending the weekend with my kids.
Right.
But if they gave you no notice,
we have a
you know?
concierge that definitely.
And I will tell you, his dining room staff, plus
dining room
all of
manager.
us managers and the ancillary team there, we notice, when I talk about family, we are truly one family. We recognize when somebody's not there. They show up late for breakfast. One of the coolest things we have there, and I think this is unique to Brookdale, a little plastic piece above the door. Concierge, 1 o'clock in the morning, goes around and flips the plastic piece up against the door. And then about 10 o'clock in the morning, he or she walks the building to see how many of those have fallen, because of course when you open your door, it will fall.
Right.
And we'll know you've been up. If it's 10 o'clock and you're normally up at 9, that thing's still up, we're going to check on you.
So protocol is in place.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Again, we're not intrusive.
No, you're not. No.
We want you to be independent.
Realize that.
But we do have your back.
And of course, in dining, you have a seat, and you're expected to be there. And if you're not, we're going to call you and ask you why. Where are you? Like we have 3 seatings, and if there's a problem and you're late or something and you don't contact us, we'll call you or we'll go get you.
It's actually a maitre d' kind of a thing there.
Yeah, really? Is it really? It's like going to a restaurant.
Pretty much. Absolutely.
We were talking a little while ago about the comparison between independent living and being on a cruise or a 5-star hotel. That
very similar.
Yeah, because it sounds like the opportunity is there, and if you want to seize it, it's there for you. And if you're not having the kind of day where you're feeling too active, it's your choice. No one's dictating, in other words, of how you need to construct your day or what you have to do throughout the course of the day.
You pick and choose.
You pick it.
The activities you want to do.
You have a website.
We do.
What is it?
Well, it's brookdaleliving.com, and I think we're going to put it up here in a second.
Oh, nice.
There's a little Chatfield extension there, and brings you right to our page. There's great pictures. There's contact information. And, of course, we always encourage people to come by and just pay us a visit.
Well,
come on in, have a little lunch, have a little dinner. Just say hello, stop by on your way to the mall. I grew up in Newington. I passed Chatfield many times in my life and didn't realize it.
Well, it's kind of like buying a car. You're not going to buy a car just because it looks really good on the pictures. I mean, you're going to go there and take it for a test drive. Something that I would highly recommend. They can even come in and have a bite to eat, huh?
Absolutely.
And check out the pub?
Check out the pub, yes.
Wow.
Check out the pub.
Guys, I really want to thank you for your time on Common Sense Connecticut. We're going to go and have a break and eat some of this food. I'm going to reintroduce our guests from Chatfield Independent Living. By the way, located in West Hartford. I want to give you the phone number really quick, 860-561-1669. That's area code 860-561-1669. Ken Papillo, Sales and Marketing Director. Also Charles Davis, Dining Services Director. And the Executive Director is Bill McDonald.
Actually, I'm the outreach. Sarah Lynn Bowen is she couldn't be here tonight.
Gotcha.
She's the Director
From
of
Outreach. All from Sheffield
Yep.
Independent Living. Also want to thank our guest from earlier, legendary Hollywood director, producer, and Connecticut resident, Doug Rogers. I'm Gary Byron. Thank you so much for watching Common Sense Connecticut. Until next time, everybody, have a good one. Good night.